Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. So, we do have a bit of an interesting story to start this week off because different publishers were asked by a regulator on if they had any type of concerns with the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition. And it seems like most publishers, they're not overly concerned except for one, and that would be none other than Sony. See, they put out a big long statement and their response was, it was rather interesting and maybe even lacking in confidence in their own skills as they come off as, quite frankly, scared. Yes, Sony seems afraid of this acquisition, and if anything, they're seeking to stop this acquisition, which is ironic when you start to think about the overall situation. So yeah, we're gonna go over that whole ordeal later on today. Also, we do have some good news for Nintendo as well, as a big update for their flagship holiday title is coming later this week. Yeah, that's great to see, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that as well. Before we get started today, though, I just want to go and say, make sure to hit that bell notification and subscribe button below. We're trying to close in on that 50,000 subscriber mark. It's almost hard to believe that we've gotten this far. I mean, I still can't wrap my mind around that, but let's just go and try to get there. Make sure to hit that subscribe and like button below. And per usual, I'll try to bring you all as much game news as I possibly can on a daily basis. Plus, I'll try to highlight some great games for you to play as well. Let's go and jump into the news, though, starting off with Xenoblade 3. Last week, of course, it released a rave reviews, and to nobody's surprise, it's gotten off to a great start in terms of units sold. Now, we don't have any official numbers as of yet. I'll be very interested to see those, but what we do currently know is that Xenoblade 3 did top the best sellers on the Nintendo eShop, which is definitely noteworthy. It surpassed the likes of Nintendo Switch Sports, it surpassed Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Minecraft, and Stardew Valley. So yeah, pretty much your typical top sellers, but there are a few other recent entries here as well that's had some really good success so far. Live Alive HD and Digimon Survive are also frequenting the top 10 eShop bestsellers, and I think that this really just kinda goes to show you just how good of a month Nintendo had in July. I think July has been a little bit slower paced for most platforms. I've seen some complaints out there from some of you all, but for fans of JRPGs and the Switch, it's like there's just too many good games right now. Either way, though, big congrats to Xenoblade 3. It's great to see its popularity just continue to rise throughout the Switch generation. I mean, just a little over 10 years ago, fans were begging Nintendo to localize Xenoblade for the Wii. And now here we are in 2022, and we've gotten three Xenoblade games on one platform, and the franchise couldn't possibly have a brighter future. Yeah, this franchise has come a long way, and it's just really great to see. Let me know, though, for those who are playing through Xenoblade 3, how are you liking it, and what's your favorite in the franchise so far? Now, we also got an update for Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. This game was shown back at the Xbox Bethesda Showcase, and it's really the big return for Team Ninja on Xbox. You know, they've made some great games in the past, such as Ninja Gaiden. They developed Neo last generation, which was a great Souls-like franchise. So having them back on the Xbox platform with a big new IP, that is definitely significant. Of course, it's also multi-platform, so do keep that in mind. But so far, it seems like this game is going a little under the radar. Now, I'm actually not overly surprised by that because we don't really know too much about it. You know, it is kind of hard to get excited for something when you've seen literally no gameplay on it. But that might actually be changing sometime here soon. They did post an update over the weekend that you can see here. They say that it will include a character creator, challenging gameplay, a new morale system, weapons used with Chinese martial arts, famous warlords from the Three Kingdoms, creatures and fiends from Chinese mythology. It has sorcery, online multiplayer, and most notably, a gameplay trial that's coming in the near future. Now that part there is very notable because Wo Long is planned to release in 2023, actually early 2023, and this seems to be very similar to what they did with Final Fantasy Origins. If you remember right, that was actually an early 2022 release, just released earlier this year, and ahead of its launch, they did have a playable demo, that way they could get players' feedback and fix things up before it came out. Well, it sounds like they might be doing something very similar here, which means that we could actually get a playable demo here in the coming months, and then maybe after that, it'll start to get a little bit more recognition. We do know that Wo Long is once again a Soulsborne-like game, much like Nioh, and that there is intriguing because coming off the success of Elden Ring, it does make you wonder if even a fraction, just a small fraction, of the success that that game has had could possibly translate over to Wo Long. I mean, if it turns out to be as high quality as Nioh, because that was a great Souls-like, I mean, maybe with the popularity of Elden Ring, we could see some of that success translate, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully we'll get that demo sometime here soon. Let's go and talk about PlayStation Now and this Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. I mean, you might have heard about this acquisition by this point. You know, they're just making one of the biggest acquisitions ever. No big deal or anything, right? Well, the thing about this acquisition is that Microsoft, they do have to get the approval of different regulators around the world, and this includes over in Brazil. Well, the interesting part about how Brazil does things is that they ask different third parties about the transaction to get a better understanding over the entire situation. That way they can make a better choice on whether or not they want to approve it. And they're also very transparent about the responses from these third parties. So the statement of different publishers have now made their way online, which includes Ubisoft, it includes Warner Brothers, Bandai Namco, Apple, and the list goes on and on. You can actually take a look at all of the responses online. I will have a link in the description below, but for the most part, nothing stood out except for the response from Sony. Now, I'm not going to read through the entire post because of how long it is, but basically it comes off as them being incredibly scared of this acquisition, and that's for three main reasons. And yes, we'll go over each in great detail. The first of which is none other than Call of Duty. Sony claims that they believe that they cannot, or in other words, are not capable of creating a rival to Call of Duty. Now, okay, that's fair enough. Call of Duty is a huge franchise, but they claim that Call of Duty is in a gaming category all of its own. That's quite a lot of praise for what could possibly be an Xbox IP sometime here soon. But beyond that, despite Sony having several world-class studios that has had a lot of success, they believe that none of them are suited to create a game that could rise to the popularity of Call of Duty. Now that is very telling on the overall situation here. If we actually rewind to earlier this year, we already knew that Sony was concerned as they had a private discussion with Xbox in regards to Call of Duty. This led Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, to state publicly that Call of Duty will remain multi-platform. Now you can take that with a grain of salt if you want, and okay, fine, but Microsoft has publicly said this a few different times. They're letting regulators know that they intend on keeping Call of Duty multi-platform, and they've even mentioned wanting to bring it over to Nintendo. Despite all that though, Sony is still afraid, and I don't think that that's necessarily linked to them being afraid of exclusivity per se. I actually take this a completely different way because Sony's had that advantage of having the Call of Duty marketing for a long period of time. And I don't think people necessarily realize just how impactful that can actually be. You have to keep in mind that Call of Duty is an absolutely massive franchise, especially when it comes to the more casual crowd. And Sony, they've had that privilege of having the marketing rights and things like exclusive DLC or first rights or whatever. Well, then suddenly, Sony, they're just going to have to kind of say goodbye to any type of marketing rights. And people might not necessarily realize this, but again, that will be a big blow to Sony because then Xbox will be able to plaster everywhere that we not only have Call of Duty, but it will also launch day one into Xbox Game Pass, where you can just simply pay $10 to play Call of Duty plus all these other games. Despite being multi-platform, that is absolutely huge for Xbox, and it will without a doubt drive growth for Xbox consoles and Xbox Game Pass, which is what Sony is actually truly afraid of. That is actually very evident in a statement here, as their second point was that they have very little to counter Xbox Game Pass in the short term, and that it will take years of investment to create something that could rival Xbox Game Pass. Now, for all of those people out there that make all these different talking points about how Xbox Game Pass is not that big of a deal, you know, Sony they're good with everything they have. Well, this is coming directly from Sony themselves. Despite them just launching PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, they themselves believe that it's not capable of rivaling Game Pass and that they'll have to make years of investments to do so. But that's kind of the entire point. Xbox Game Pass has been around for a long while now. It's not like this just kind of came out of nowhere. It's been very obvious that Microsoft has been shifting towards Game Pass, and their entire strategy has centered solely around that idea. Sony's had a very long time to try to put something together to compete with Game Pass, but they've been slow to try anything. They had PlayStation Now, which they never truly seemed to commit in, and it's gotten to the point that Xbox Game Pass has become viewed as the best overall deal in gaming. That's part because Sony, they never put the time into making their own service to compete. That's not Microsoft's fault though, that's Sony's. The whole competition breeds excellence that I always preach. That's what we're looking at here. But Sony, it almost seems like they're bitter of having to compete for subscriptions in a service like this. They don't want to have to take years to invest. They want that immediate success, disregarding that it took Xbox years to get to the point that they are now. And that's the last point that Sony tried to make. They believe with the acquisition of Call of Duty and because of how popular it is, that it will influence players' choice on which console to purchase. And yeah, no duh. That's the entire point of any type of acquisition, to gain influence. Are they really trying to tell me that their acquisition of studios like Housemarque, Bluepoint, Insomniac Games, or locking down third-party exclusives like Final Fantasy, I mean, you can even take it so far as them locking down popular IP like Spider-Man or Wolverine. Are they really trying to tell us that all of that was them just trying to play nice? That they weren't trying to gain any type of influence? Come on, Sony, let me just get out of here with that type of nonsense. That is just an absurd statement and completely hypocritical for Sony to even make a debate like that. All in all, though, I do expect Microsoft to talk with regulators to kind of describe what's happened here and why these points aren't nothing to worry about. I don't think that this will impact the acquisition itself, but what I will say is that I think that it's a bad look on Sony's part, and it just displays a lack of confidence in their own studios and their own services, and this all comes after the fact that they've acquired Bungie and Destiny and launched their own quote-unquote Game Pass competitor. It's just so hypocritical, and again, Microsoft's already publicly suggested that Call of Duty will remain multi-platform, and even still, Sony's coming off very frightened here. Now, maybe there's a reason for that because this is a game-changing acquisition. It obviously will have a big impact, but it does seem like Sony wants to seek to stop this acquisition if they possibly can. Will they succeed in that? I don't think that they will, but let me know what you all think about this in the comments below. Shifting gears for a moment though, Nintendo's flagship holiday title, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, is set to get a big update this week on August 3rd. It was just revealed today that a Pokemon Presents is set for this week, and you'll be able to watch it live at 6 a.m. Pacific Time or 9 a.m. Eastern. For you all in the West, I guess you'll just have to wake up super early for this one, or better yet, just wait until you wake up and then watch it then, or of course, I will give you an update later that day. Nonetheless, though, they did reveal that this will be a 20-minute long event where they're going to give updates for Pokemon apps, different Pokemon games, and of course, the one that everybody's excited for, the much-anticipated Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, this is amidst ongoing leaks for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so if you've been following any of those leaks online, I guess we'll see if any of those are true. What I'm personally most interested in, though, and this is just me personally, it's my own opinion, but what I would personally like to see here is how the world and story is going to play out. What type of challenges are we looking at? Are they going to use gym battles? Are they going to do something like Sun and Moon did? And what type of actual difficulty curve are we looking at? I am a huge fan of the Pokemon franchise. I've, said that countless times on this channel, but I am very much looking forward to Scarlet and Violet. And one of the things that I have consistently been asking for when it comes to the Pokemon games is to have more of a challenge in its single player. I mean, if you've played it competitively, you know just how strategic and difficult the Pokemon series can be. There's a ton of depth in the Pokemon franchise, but the single player never really takes advantage of that. And I want to see that change. We did see with Legends Arceus that it was a lot more challenging, and probably the most gratifying battles that I've had in a single-player Pokemon game possibly ever, or at least since I was a kid, not realizing how easy these games actually truly are. But nonetheless, I want to see them follow that challenge of Legends Arceus, or at the very least, give us a difficulty mode. That way we can choose if we want it to be easy or difficult. I mean, I get it to an extent that Pokemon first focuses on kids, but there's still a lot of longtime fans that play these games to this day. So reward those fans with more of a challenge and give us the option of turning off XP share. Please give us at least that option. As for the world itself, we know that it's an open world game and that you can go wherever you want immediately, but I want to see how they actually handle that with gym battles and its difficulty and all that. This is a big shift for the Pokemon franchise, obviously, and I'm interested in their take here. As for what other Pokemon games that they could show here, though, I expect Pokemon Unite to get an update here. That's a pretty popular game, so I think that that's an easy guess. And, I mean, if I want to go with a more difficult guess as to what could possibly be shown here, maybe, just maybe, Detective Pikachu 2. We do know that that game is in development, though will it actually be shown? I don't know about all that. I'm not expecting it, I'll say that, but I'll cross my fingers and hope that that does end up showing up here. Let me know, though, what are you most hoping to see here at Pokemon Presents on August 3rd? Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, now that some game publishers have been selling games for $70 for a while, how do you feel about it? And as you can see here, most of you are not happy, as 74% of you said that you refuse to buy them for $70 and will wait for them to go on sale. Then 12% of you said that it annoys you, but you'll still buy them day one, and then 8% said that it doesn't bother you at all. So there you have it. You all made it very clear that you're still not thrilled with this shift to $70 AAA games, which is to be expected. Nobody, and I mean nobody, likes when prices increase. We like to hear the opposite, in fact, very obviously. Though looking through the comments, I did see several comments that said it all just kind of depends on what game we're talking about. And I think that that's a great point to make, because I think despite a lot of fans not necessarily being happy about the price hike as we're seeing here, when games like God of War Ragnarok releases for $70, I think that a lot of fans will pay that extra $10 to play it day one. And that will be the interesting part to follow, because as long as publishers have success, that trend could transfer to other publishers. Cost of game development has risen pretty dramatically, and with inflation here recently, we could see more publishers try this sometime here soon if proven to be successful. But in any case, these publishers will also need to navigate situations like this very carefully, because there is that possibility of backlash. Nonetheless, though, we'll kind of see how all this plays out in the long run, but if I were to make a prediction here, I think that it will become more common as this generation goes along, despite some backlash online. I'm not saying that I hope for it. I obviously am not rooting for any type of price increase, but I think that it is very possible as we get further into the generation. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.